Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company. Find all the soap and shirts. The shirt we did together, in fact. You need that shirt, the Jiu-Jitsu shirt. Find all of that at their website, Tape Armor, as well as Rolls Gear. And you can find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and we know we've had a hiatus. We're sorry about that. But me and Randy did get to talk about the UFC that just happened in Raleigh. Fight Night with Junior Dos Santos versus Bayless. Talked a little bit about Relson getting in trouble. I don't know. I think we just kind of caught up and talked a bit about it. So we hope you guys like this episode. Don't forget to review us, share us with your friends, and join our group on Facebook. It is the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show group. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. UFC stuff. Which was, the event was good.
Was it?
Yes.
I saw some of the fights. I went back and watched a bunch of the prelims the other day. I was at work when it was actually going on, and I wish that I could have got off and went. But
oh, dude, it was pretty dope. Not gonna lie.
I'll tell you what, man. Every time I looked at Facebook,
mm-hmm.
My newsfeed was taken over by UFC posts. It seems like every one of my training partners and friends were at that event.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm still like getting shit that was like, Trevor Burns was there. I was like, fuck, if I knew Trevor was there, man, because it was like I saw a post from him and Robbie Adams and Johnny, the Muay Thai guy. Who else? Keith Bell. Just kind of was like, oh yeah, dude, I'll fucking hit y'all up. Don't worry. And then I got there, and I'm looking around. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm going to find anybody in this place, like, at all.
Yeah, so it sounded like a pretty impressive crowd. How was the crowd there?
It was good. Actually, before we get into that, let's go ahead. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And we're talking about the UFC event that just happened in Raleigh, which was actually pretty damn good. And unfortunately, Randy wasn't there. But, dude, the crowd was good. Crowd was behind it. I think the only time I was kind of bummed out was the fact that when people were on the ground, some people started booing. And
really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's every UFC.
Yeah, but you'd think, North Carolina with this jiu-jitsu scene, I figured it'd be a more educated crowd, so.
Well, it wasn't like the whole arena booed, I'll put it that way. But
right.
There was a large enough crowd of people booing when it was like, I'm trying to remember the fight, but they were in somebody was in half guard and they're trying to pass it, and of course it's the PNC Arena. I took an Uber there, so you can only imagine what I was doing while watching the fights. And I'm sitting there. It was actually my buddies Brian and Joe. I actually started Muay Thai with them at a Taekwondo school back in 2001. So I've known these guys a while. And we all were sitting together, and I remember they started booing, and I was like, you motherfuckers never booing, have never fought a day in your life. And then just like Joe's like, shut up, man. Just be quiet. Yeah, but kind of upset me.
But you're right, though. And, let's just say that. Probably preaching to the choir on a jiu-jitsu podcast, but yeah, I think when you watch a UFC, the first thing that comes to mind when you hear people booing when it's in grappling range is that they're not educated.
Yeah.
In terms of the fight game, they are uneducated. They're the mongoloids of the fight world. So.
I'm gonna use that now from now on. Fucking Mongol. There goes half our listener base. It's all good. I don't care. I'm fucking using it. But no. Otherwise, like, the crowd was actually behind everybody. Even Hannah Seifers, when she fought, she fought hard. That chick was tough. So I
saw that fight. She did. I've never met her. I've never met her before, but for the listener, she's local. So if I remember correctly, she trained a lot with Elevate MMA. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
So that was cool to see a local on there, and she had heart, man.
Yeah, when she was mounted, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the fights, well, I'm sorry. But when she was mounted and getting hit, I was like, oh, shit. Every time she got hit, but she was still moving. She was bumping. She was trying to trying to get, out of that position. And she almost got out of it quite a few times, but
she did.
Fuck, that girl was pretty rough. That was a tough girl there.
You know what's frustrating too is, I mean, obviously I know that they're doing a fair job of having respectable fighters commentating, but part of what frustrated me was that the commentators, the dialogue about that part where, Hannah was trying to get out from underneath a high mount and was eating a lot of punches and elbows. They were saying that she was just trying to hip bump out. It's like, well, and I think eventually one of them did mention that it was a high mount, so that's difficult to get out of in the same way that you would escape, because they kept saying shrimp, 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 and it's like, well, yeah, but if she turns to shrimp and goes 2-1 on the hip or on the knee, she's going to eat those devastating elbows that she's eating, and that's why she was having a hard time getting out, was the balance between getting hit and trying to defend that so the ref doesn't stop the fight, and also trying to work on her escape. I thought she did really all she could. It was just a terrible scenario.
Yeah, I mean, for being in that scenario, she did probably better than shit. I couldn't think of a better way to get out of it, because, like you said, you're now balancing between getting punched in the face, elbowed in the face, and those are not glancing elbows. Like, they were hitting her head and stopping. Like, trying to put her skull through the mat. And then trying to escape high mount from that, dude, she did everything she could and just get caught. But I will say,
she did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say she did a really good job though of making a lot of those miss. I was impressed by how many of those she was able to, even in that small amount of space that she had to work with.
Yeah.
Making a lot of those shots miss and hit the mat. I mean, she was doing a very good job in a worst case scenario to defend herself. So. Yeah.
But I will say something that was interesting was the fact that we had zero commentary watching it.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that.
We had all sorts of commentary going around us, and we're just like, please shut up. There was one guy. Hell. He was fighting Javier Dos Anjos, and he was trying to jump on his back, and some guy like next to us in the row was screaming, "Put him in north-south from that position." I'm like, the fuck? How do you do that? Like, he was standing. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? I'm just started like looking over, and Joe again was like, "Stop, just stop, man." Like, all right.
It's like that video. It's like that video I sent you. It was in reference to one of the episodes we did when you showed you mentioned that horrible video, the dick twist.
Oh yeah.
And I saw this video and I had to share it with you on Instagram, where it was some guy in some MMA event. I don't know if it was a UFC necessarily, but this guy's recording it from his selfie cam, and the guy behind him in the audience is like, "Twist his dick."
Yeah.
You can only imagine the things you hear in a crowd like that.
Oh man, yeah. And what was it? There was a guy behind us, and he was what was it when Junior Dos Santos was fighting? He's like, "Yo, I put $200 that Junior's gonna knock this dude out," and he just talked like not even like, Junior's like respectable shit. He's like, "Yo, the other guy fucking sucks. That guy and this guy looks like he, try not to be mean. Oh fuck it, the dude looks like he'd get fucking winded throwing a three punch combo."
Yeah.
And he just like, "Yeah, that guy fucking sucks." I was just waiting for him to say something like, if he said something along the lines of like, "I'd fucking beat that guy," I'm like, all right, cool, now I gotta say something. But
yeah.
Around that time, he's like, "You better, I put $200 on it." Fucking poor Junior Dos Santos got knocked out. I was like, ugh. I feel bad for Junior Dos Santos, but I don't feel bad for that motherfucker behind me running his mouth.
Did he shut up after that?
Oh, he like huffed out of he got up and like stormed out. I was like, problem solved, man.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I hate to see JDS go down like that too, but
yeah,
come on, man. If you're at that level of the fight game, you don't suck. I'm sorry.
Oh hell no. I was like, looking at it, it's like the 135 and the 145, and they would show up and just beat the shit out of me. Like I will not say they suck unless it's like it's like jiu-jitsu. Then I can comment some. I'm like, he probably needs to work a little bit more on their fucking whatever, because I feel like I at least have that going for me, that I can break down a fucking full guard, but never say they suck.
Well, I mean, that was, we were watching some of the prelims the morning after, afternoon after for me, because I'm on night shift. But my girlfriend was asking me, she was like, how do you feel like you would do against these guys? I was like, I would get my ass kicked. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I said, these are pro fighters. I was like, I can sit here and I understand what they're doing, what they're going for, what they should look for potentially, and I understand the technique being demonstrated, but their execution is you know, way above and beyond what I'm capable of because they're professional fighters. That's what they should be.
Yep.
You know. But no, I would never. I'm not one of those guys that'd be like, oh, I'd go in there and I'd give them a run for their money. No, I'd get my ass kicked.
Oh yeah, easily. I feel like if I would be one step above Steven Seagal going into like somebody's dressing room and giving them advice, just because, like, you know, I'm not a guy doing Aikido who's also a reserve cop in Louisiana that changes his accent every like year. But
yeah,
you know, I'd be like, hey, you know, have you thought about doing this? And then be like, yeah, that's real good. I got this fucking 3rd-degree black belt teaching me jiu-jitsu. Like, all right, cool, I'm out. As opposed to like, because what was it? He came into John Jones's dressing room. Was like, I think it was something like before he was like, hey, John Jones, like, get the fuck out of my dressing room. Like, yelled that at him. Just because.
Yeah, because who was it that he actually gave advice to? Wasn't it Anderson Silva?
It was Anderson Silva, but then now there was I think it was more for the fact that Anderson Silva was like, oh, cool, Steven Seagal's here. More like then, oh, I need advice from Steven Seagal, because wasn't Andre Galvao dressed like Steven Seagal during one of his training sessions? And
I didn't hear about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a video of it. It's pretty funny. And he's just like, no, you try to punch me. And he just like waves his hands and karate chops a dude like in the neck and drops him.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson, the thing about Anderson Silva was he was always very unorthodox and just had this super awesome kind of athleticism and natural ability to go along with his incredible skills. I think when he entertained Steven Seagal before the fight, I mean, at that point, you're not going to really, right before you go out there to fight, you're not going to really learn anything new that's going to help you that much. So I think he was just kind of playing the game, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Steven Seagal is ridiculous. That guy's he's crazy.
Fucking Steven Seagal. Somehow we always get back to Steven Seagal. I have no idea how we do that, but I think because he's such a that's the divide. I think that's the real divide in MMA. Is do you like Steven Seagal or do you hate Steven Seagal?
I think we need to start. You know how they have the Chuck Norris jokes, which are amazing. They never get old. We should go up with our own formula of Steven Seagal jokes.
Steven Seagal doesn't take one portion of lasagna; he eats the whole pan. Is that a good one or no?
I kind of like it.
All right, cool. We're fucking running with it. We're making it. We're posting it on the Facebook group. I'm already on it.
Yeah, we're going to start coming up with some new ones. We're going to start.
Steven Seagal once fought 2 guys at once and lost. Nah, dude, these are terrible. We need to think more about these. Yeah, but you probably have better ones than me because I'm already like 0 for 2 right now. Well, how about legitimate fighters? Somebody posted something in the group, and I know you'd posted something about it, and I was kind of like thinking over of it, and I was like, dude, this is kind of crazy. Relson got busted for, what was it exactly? You probably, honestly, being law enforcement, you probably have a better understanding of what exactly he got busted for.
The article I read said that he got busted for trafficking marijuana, and that he also had like oils and possibly some synthetics as well. So there's different types of marijuana now and different types of THC derivatives and things that people get. And depending on the THC content, it can, at least in the United States, he got popped in Brazil, but in the United States, depending on the THC content and concentration, things can get elevated to higher levels. I mean, most time marijuana is a misdemeanor, but some of the oils and those things can elevate to felony charges depending on what you're looking at. And it gets kind of complicated, but yeah, he was basically trafficking marijuana and different derivatives. So
yikes. I mean, you know, it's kind of like a... So my whole opinion, I know I just gave dead air there, and I apologize to our listeners. It's a big no-no. But I feel... So my opinion on marijuana is kind of like, you know, if you do it in the confines of your own home, okay. But remember, you're still playing by... You have to play by the rules.
Right.
Like, Colorado, fucking go nuts, be responsible, do your thing. Department of Defense, certain jobs, law enforcement, you can't go home and fucking smoke weed. That's just the way it is, right?
Right.
But, like, trafficking? Come on, man. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
That's totally against the rules, man.
He took it into public transportation, you know, and that's just kind of stupid. I'm actually the same philosophy you are when it comes to marijuana. And that's even working in the law enforcement field. I just think that and people would be surprised to know that that's actually the vast majority of law enforcement these days. We all understand that it's not the crime of the century.
Yeah.
It's not like using some powerful opiate, or getting into methamphetamines and going and breaking into your neighbor's house and, killing their cat. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make you do crazy things like that, but at the time it's still illegal. And so same philosophy. If you do it in privacy of your own home, then good for you. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It should probably be treated the same as alcohol in terms of the law anyway. You can't operate any vehicles under the influence and things of that nature, but it is what it is. And yeah, trafficking is another level. And my curiosity is, yeah, and I'll play devil's advocate on it as well.
Okay.
But my thing is, with Relson being part of the Gracie bloodline, being one of the elders in the Gracie family at this point, how does this affect Gracie University and like Henner and Hero and what they're doing with law enforcement, with the Gracie Survival Tactics program with law enforcement? It's not a good look for them. So
it's really not. I mean, to me, it's kind of, so there was an instructor of an organization. He's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I'll at least rule that guy out. It was a different martial art. It was a story somebody told me, and it was a bona fide, like, this guy did this shit, like a speech in his class, and he's talking to teenagers, and he's talking about how martial arts gave him self-discipline to not do drugs, or let me rephrase that, help him from doing drugs every day. So he said, martial arts is, before I joined martial arts, I was doing drugs every day, not doing anything. And now that I have martial arts in my life and I've become a black belt, I seldom do drugs anymore. And
wow.
Yeah, I was like, all right, cool. So it's probably not the speech I would have gone with, but fair enough.
No.
But at the same time, like, but that you're supposed to be like, he was truthful, I'll give him that. But at the same time, if you want to represent self-discipline, taking care of yourself, shit like that, and then you tell the kids, like, hey, I seldom do drugs now, isn't martial arts great? And they're like, yeah, okay, cool, like, we'll fucking seldom do drugs. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but with this, if you're working in a group where it's like, hey, we're teaching law enforcement officers how to keep themselves safe and, like, use whatever they can to de-escalate a situation and gain control of whatever confrontation they're in, and then you're out there like breaking the law, like federal law, right? Because that was it's not a good look. Not a good look, like you said.
No, and I mean, again, it comes back on, like, I think the key to life, in my opinion, is moderation.
Yes.
Not too much or too little of anything. If you go over the top with anything, it could be, you could say health foods. You eat too much of health foods, it's still bad for you because then it's not healthy. I mean, it's kind of this delicate balance. And so when you look at marijuana, I kind of look at that much the same way. And I've never used it. I mean, I grew up in a law enforcement family, went in the military, came out and became a cop. So when in there do I have to have a chance to even ever try it,
Yeah.
But with that being said, I mean, I have close friends of mine, people that I think are great people that use marijuana, but they do it in moderation. It doesn't dominate their life. And so it's fine. I don't care. I've rolled with people that smelled like marijuana, and it's like, and sometimes people act like I care. I don't care at all. If it makes you comfortable, it calms you down. I can't use it. That's my life. That's not your life. But when you go over the top and you look at guys like Eddie Bravo, who, he carries on a conversation with more than 2 sentences and the guy's out of breath. He sounds like he's one of these fat asses that just got done eating 3 Big Macs and is struggling to live whenever he talks because he smokes so much marijuana that it's affecting his conditioning. I think that's a little excessive. And then trafficking and doing these federal crimes, I mean, obviously at that point, it's wrong. So the Gracie family has always put out this message of being, at least if you look at Helio Gracie and his message, and Carlos Gracie, they've always wanted the more healthy approach. I mean, Carlos put out that book about nutrition.
Yeah.
And he was very much against people in having to use marijuana, recreational drugs. But I also feel like there's a lot of Gracies that use it recreationally,
Yeah. Well, there's one, because we talked about it a little bit before the podcast. I think Hein was kind of all over the place, but I think that might have been more of a not due to him being strung out on drugs all the time. I think there was probably some other shit going on there with him.
Yeah, he clearly had some mental health issues and things like that went unaddressed, which I think is a very pervasive issue in the world today. Mental health not being treated the way it should.
Absolutely. So. No, I agree with that. I mean, I'm sorry, go on. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're good. But the other part of on the flip side of the coin, I said I was going to play the other side of it too. Is, I look at Henner and Heron as kind of. The only reason I'm using them as an example is because obviously that's the other end of the extreme. We're talking about a guy getting popped for trafficking. We're talking about Relson Gracie, who had an extensive criminal history. If you just Google him, they're the other end. They're working with law enforcement, working with military. They're trying to send a positive message. They're anti-bully. They're kind of that positive side of what the jiu-jitsu family is trying to portray. And you can argue if it's for business or if it's legit, whatever, it's still a positive message. And, every family has their black sheep, and that's kind of playing the other side of the coin, right? Everybody on this listening to this podcast, I'm no exception to that. I've had relatives get arrested for some pretty serious stuff. Family is family, and when you've got a family as large as the Gracie family, especially, you're going to have some people that subscribe to a different philosophy.
No, it is true. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's just certain members of my family as well. You're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But
yeah,
they're still family, and I get it. And their decisions don't reflect on my decisions, and it's shitty, but if that's the route they want to go. And just like you said, like with high-end, but you still have members like Henner and, helping out the community, helping out law enforcement, stuff like that. So I think
exactly.
There's good and bad everywhere. Exactly.
And hopefully this stuff with Relson doesn't tarnish the legacy of what the Gracies are putting forth. I mean, I don't always agree with what they put out. I don't always agree with what they say. But I still appreciate and respect the fact that it's jiu-jitsu, and they're using jiu-jitsu as a vehicle to try to make the world a better place. And I think we should all be on board with that, if nothing else.
Yeah, I hear you. As long as everybody's out there trying to make the world better through martial arts, I'm down with it.
Absolutely. I think that jiu-jitsu is extremely powerful for that. I've said for a long time, especially from my perspective in my profession, I think that jiu-jitsu has the power to change the world. When you look at the negative perspective that some people in today's society have for law enforcement in terms of use of force and things of that nature, jiu-jitsu is honestly a big part of that answer. Better trained officers are more equipped to deal with things in different ways other than resorting to deadly force or getting heavy-handed, because they have other techniques at their disposal.
Yep.
They have a different level of self-confidence. We all know this. We roll on the mats. You learn not only humility and vulnerability, because there's always somebody better than you on the mats, but you also have a deep level of understanding of position, awareness, tactile awareness specifically. Those things are imperative for law enforcement, imperative for military, anybody in combat. It makes you better across the board. So, we have, unfortunately, these occasional little blemishes on our record in jiu-jitsu, like Relson Gracie, making a mistake. But all in all, I think jiu-jitsu is a huge positive in society today.
I agree 100% with that. And I wish more people would kind of jump in on it. And I guess maybe it's more or less the white belts can calm down a bit, I guess. The people who get in, and they're we talked about this before, the biggest people who preach the gospel of jiu-jitsu are the fucking white belts and blue belts. And then I understand it completely. I was super duper excited when I first started too. But if we can just kind of police each other and be like, hey man, I know you're excited, but please calm down, everything would be a bit better.
Well, and I think, when you look at this kind of an offshoot topic, but it's still related. When you think about this, I mean, I saw some negative comments there's some articles that were posted about political candidate. We won't get into politics, but just as an offshoot, was it Andy Yang that's running for president?
Yeah.
And it's kind of gaining some steam and popularity. He made a comment in one of his speeches where he said that every police officer should be a purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Oof.
And I actually like the concept of it. Obviously, perfect world, sure. I get it. And where I'm going with this is, because that same guy also believes that they should decriminalize opiates like heroin and cocaine, which is completely insane. But, the idea of jiu-jitsu and law enforcement going hand in hand, I think also carries over into kids and bullying. I think it's all related to the same thing in the sense of a better educated, better trained populace in terms of physical abilities actually relates to less violent tendencies. Because how often is jiu-jitsu humble? I mean, I don't want to fight anybody, and I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 10 years. It doesn't make you want to go out and be more violent, which that was some of the feedback on the thread in relation to cops being purple belts. And a lot of people were saying, oh, that's the last thing cops need is to be trained in jiu-jitsu and be able to hurt people more. And it's like, well, I think it would have the opposite effect.
No, I agree with that 100%. Like I said oof to the purple belt thing because I was thinking, like, dude, that took me like, what, 6-7 years to get my purple belt. Right. So, I mean, somebody who wants to be a police officer at 6 to 7 years, like, in the chute waiting to be a cop. Or if you go, like, the super advanced, like, BJ Penn route, like, 2 years, maybe a year and a half. Right. You're just hanging out waiting. But I do think, so in Europe, there are a lot of police academies that have their own martial arts club in the academy.
Right.
And I think, like, maybe there's some sort of middle ground there. Like, hey, you're a police officer, but part of, like, your place of duty for one day a week is here to do training for an hour and a half just to make sure you're still sharp on your skills. Because, I mean, one of my big complaints of the combatives program in the U.S. Army, and I'm not saying it's a bad program, some of the approaches to it is you have people who, I was one of the instructors at the battalion, and people would occasionally ask me to teach their company, and even me teaching other people's companies, I probably taught combatives at my last unit 4 times in the 3.5 years I was there.
Right.
And 4 times we'll say, like, and that's pretty much every class that was run. Like, for my company, for 2 other companies, I'm like, that's more or less like once every 8 months, about, I think.
Right.
That's
definitely
crazy. That's not enough time. Yeah. And I mean, granted, we weren't all gung ho about it, and it was just more or less like this is a check the block thing. It's a soldiering skill. You're supposed to know how to do it.
Right.
But anybody who does combatives once every 8 months, or once a month, is not going to retain anything at all.
No, and that's been part of my approach with this, and I'm trying to censor what I say a little bit because I'm putting some things together on the back end that I need to keep to myself for the time being. It's meant to make it better, but if I give away part of it without the entire formula and somebody tries to do it, it's not going to work. So I'm trying to keep some of the things to myself, but I'm thinking along the same wavelengths in a similar fashion to a modern army combatives type of idea, right? But it needs to be done the right way. And what we do right now is we train, we have 3 blocks of instruction, 2 hours apiece, that get fed to the officers each year, but spaced out throughout the calendar year. But then in addition to those 3 blocks, so that's 6 hours of DT in a year. That's obviously not enough, right?
Right.
In addition to that, we're working on like an open mat type of session where the officers get paid to come in and train for an hour open mat. And also we tend to go into some of the concepts of defensive tactics in other areas like firearms, driving. With driving, it's usually vehicle extractions and things of that nature, So like you connect the dots. So these officers are getting exposed to principles of combat constantly throughout the year on their training days. And that's kind of how it needs to be. Because like you said, it used to be when I first got hired here, it was in the police department. I almost said the name of the PD. I don't want to do that. It used to be one session, maybe once a year. Every year, hopefully, that was best case scenario, and it was an 8-hour block of instruction.
Yeah.
8 hours is too long for one session, first of all, and 8 hours in a year is not enough. So I agree with you, and that's the problem. But so yeah, jiu-jitsu, purple belt, and law enforcement, unrealistic as an expectation. But I think that the idea of officers training regularly to gain competence, which is the overall message, in my opinion, that's a great idea. And then the same thing in schools. This is an extreme philosophy and extreme idea, but I feel like they should make it mandatory in schools for students to do like gymnastics type activity and wrestling. It should be mandatory.
Wrestling, oh man, wrestling's tough enough. I feel like I remember there was a poster that my old wrestling coach had in his classroom. It was pretty much like, once you've wrestled, everything else is easy, or just any strenuous. It's true. As I'm like, never mind. Like, dude, I was not a good wrestler. So like for 2 straight years, all I did was just get the shit kicked out of me. My junior and senior year it was amazing, right? But if you're used to that, then you're like, oh yeah, you got to stay late to work. Okay, whatever, it's fine. But I think I think anything like that's going to be tough, or like, you know, is a bit physically demanding in any aspect to, I guess, some like a developing teenager, is going to be good for them later on.
I agree, and I think that the reason I brought up gymnastics, that would be, I'm thinking when I say gymnastics in school, I'm thinking like young elementary school.
Okay.
Right. So it's not, we're not talking high level gymnastics here. And the reason I bring that up is because it gives you the base of physical abilities that's going to help you in whatever sport or activity you decide to get into later.
Right.
Like, you know, just the ability to actually roll over your shoulder and not freak out. Right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
The ability to do a single pull up, you know, to control your own body, to squat right, all those things that you learn from gymnastics at a low level. And then you go into the next level, and I mean, wrestling would be great, or even a jiu-jitsu based program would be great, because then you're getting exposed to physical activity that's kind of combat related, and it's going to have the effect of what it does in our kids class. These kids aren't the ones going to school picking fights, people bullying kids, because they understand it, you know. And to me, that it has I think a lot of times bullies and people that are looking for fights, it's because of insecurity and because they don't know if they're capable or not. And so they're trying to build themselves up. Well, when you train in something that's combat oriented, you have a better understanding of what your limitations and what your strengths are, and the fact that there's always somebody better, or that somebody could get lucky, and you're less likely to try that. I mean, every sport out there, to some fashion, is an expression of violence, or at least the what do you call it? The mimicking of violence to some degree. And so I think if society embraces that instead of tries to shun it like they do all the time, we'd have less problems in terms of our violent culture, you know?
No, I agree. But like you said, even with Black Sheep, I feel like if the overwhelming majority kind of, I guess, had a handle on themselves, they'd be able to help in situations like this, even with people who are just assholes. Because in society, they're just assholes, man. Bullies, people who just want to commit violent crimes, like, there's always going to be that. But I feel like like you say, getting that base in elementary school, and when you said like not freaking out over rolling over your shoulder, like as soon as you said that, I thought back to like a lot of the first like intro lessons I give adults, and I'm like, all right, we're going to do shoulder rolls, and they're like, what the hell is that? I show them, like, fuck, how do you do that? Like to me, it's not a foreign concept, but I keep forgetting, like, to some people, when's the last time they've done a somersault? You know, you're not just like 17 hanging out with your buddies at the mall and you're just like, oh, let's do somersaults down the ramp. Nobody ever does that.
No, and I know some blue belts that are not comfortable with going backwards, rolling over their shoulder backwards.
Yeah.
And you know, forward is not an issue as a break fall, but a controlled roll over their shoulders is still something that's difficult for them to do, because they don't have faith in it. They don't trust it. They're worried about their neck. And so, well, you're not rolling over your head, you're rolling over your shoulder.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, to be serious in jiu-jitsu, you got to have that ability. I tried teaching a Shaolin sweep a while back.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a lot of people that got it, but there were some people that couldn't get it just because they didn't have the confidence to roll over their shoulder without somebody else on top of them, let alone another body, you know? And that was kind of their limitation. It's like, and I told them, I said, how do you get this far and you can't roll over your shoulders? Like, that should be something you can do in your sleep.
Yeah, as far as like blue belt level.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe for some of it, and this is a conversation I had with somebody else. They were pretty upset that so they had gotten their blue belt, and there was a group of these guys who had all gotten their blue belt together, and one of them was kind of coaching one of the other blue belts through a match during an open mat or whatever, and told her like, hey, do this. And she's like, I don't know how to do that. And he goes, how the hell are you a blue belt and you don't know how to do that? And it wasn't like rolling over your shoulder. It was something, I'm trying to remember what the hell it was. It was something ridiculous, like a fucking loco plata. I will say like a loco plata or something like that, or a fucking barada plata or something crazy. And she's like real upset. I'm like, everybody has a different like tool set for that. But some of the basics, like you said, rolling over your shoulder. Come on, man. Let's practice it a few times.
No, and I mean, I've been that guy in a class before when somebody shows like a different variation of an armbar than what you've seen, like a different setup, and you know, here you're a purple belt, brown belt, whatever, and you're trying to duplicate it, and you're like, oh, and then a blue belt comes over and shows you, and they're like, hey, this is how you do it. And I don't have a problem with that, because you know what, like you said, different toolbox, different game for everybody. Well, I don't use this setup, so it's different for me. I can do an armbar, right? Like, I don't have any problems with doing an armbar, but getting to that position, that setup maybe is different for me. And to me, I just think that's, I wouldn't call somebody out on something like that, but there are requisite skills that you should have the ability of doing at that point, like rolling over your shoulder. That should not be one of those things you can't do.
Agreed on that, yeah. But what are you going to do? Hopefully everybody just picks it up, because I remember, like, I had no idea what a Von Flew was for a while. And same thing, somebody's like, how are you a purple belt? You don't know what a Von Flew is. I'm like, well, we can roll and see who's better. I mean, don't be a douchebag. How about that? That's cool too.
Yeah. How are you a blue belt and you're a douchebag?
Exactly. Oh, I thought there was a filter here, bud. Joe Rogan said there's a filter.
Yeah.
God. Well, anyways, so another good episode. Before we head out, do you got anything you want to relay to our fans and friends?
We had a little bit of a hiatus there. We got busy lives and stuff, but we are still around strong, and looking forward to more episodes in the future. We'll get some good guests on here, and just happy to be back at it.
Yeah, same here, man. Keep it consistent the best we can, and then life's pretty busy, man. Especially those of us who work shifts for important stuff. You and me, we both understand.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Rolls Gear, and find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And we'll catch you guys next time.